Traore had just 48 hours to deliver 60% of Burkina Faso's oil and gold or face serious consequences. And the name at the bottom? Donald J. Trump, then President of the United States. He wasn't just playing politics. He was running a hard-hitting, global business offensive through backdoor diplomacy. The demand shocked even Washington's inner circle. Not talks, not deals, just a flat-out ultimatum: hand over almost complete control of the country's newly found oil and gold reserves. It wasn't a negotiation. It was a threat aimed right at the heart of Ouagadougou. Before we dive into this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Sources say the cable didn't just show up. It was hand-delivered by a trusted go-between, a former U.S. military attaché, flanked by private American security contractors. It landed on Captain Ibrahim Traore's desk at dawn. The message? Crystal clear. Let U.S. corporations start extracting oil and exporting gold immediately. Hand over long-term control of Burkina Faso's energy policy to an American-led economic board. Do it in 48 hours, or face sanctions, resource blockades, and internal sabotage. This wasn't diplomacy. This was a shakedown. Trump's tone was blunt, cold, and all business. We saved you from terrorism. Now it's time to pay up. But there was one thing Trump didn't count on. The man sitting across from that demand wasn't the type to fold. Captain Traore didn't flinch. He summoned his intelligence chief, brought in his top military commander, and told them straight: tell the Americans, Burkina Faso is not for sale. By midday, the story exploded. African media lit up from Lagos to Kinshasa. The headlines were everywhere. Trump demands Africa's resources. Traore given 24-hour deadline. The world started watching, and Burkina Faso held its breath. But Traore wasn't writing a reply with pen and paper. He was writing it with strategy and steel. You see, for months, something huge had been kept under wraps, buried beneath the dry plains of northern Burkina Faso. This wasn't rumor or guesswork. It was real. Massive, untouched oil reserves confirmed by a secret geological task force formed after Traore seized power. Russian engineers helped run the scans. Iranian drones flew under the radar. North Korean tech teams locked down the data. Everything was classified. Everything was secure, until the first drill broke ground. And then the satellites caught it. American satellites, French satellites, the ever-watching eyes in the sky. Within 48 hours, U.S. intel flagged strange energy activity in the Sahel. They tracked equipment flowing in from Iran and Venezuela. Encrypted messages hinted at a new sovereign petroleum corridor. And soon the gold signals lit up too. Burkina Faso was already taking back its gold mines, quietly kicking out foreign contractors. French-controlled companies were being replaced with national military units. The money no longer flowed to Paris. It was being redirected into a local development fund. And Washington understood exactly what this meant. Here was a country with oil and gold, not run by Wall Street, not answering to Paris, not begging the IMF, but backed by its own people, its own army, its own vision. That wasn't just defiance. That was a blueprint, and that scared the hell out of them. They didn't just want the oil. They wanted to kill the idea before Mali, Niger, Chad, or Congo got any bright ideas. That's when the phone calls started. From Exxon, from Chevron, from DC power players, all asking the same question: how do we shut this down before it becomes another Libya, only this time African, only this time African-owned? Their answer? Send Trump. Send the threat. Force Traore to kneel. But the man they picked? He doesn't kneel. When the message arrived in Ouagadougou, it wasn't dressed in diplomacy. It came wrapped in arrogance, the language of empire disguised as business. Trump's team delivered it like a business deal. But make no mistake, this wasn't negotiation. It was extortion. The demands were outlined in a 7-page document marked Confidential Strategic Resource Acquisition Framework, but the content was anything but subtle. 60% of Burkina Faso's oil production was to be granted to U.S. oil giants for stabilization and infrastructure purposes. Control of all major gold export routes was to be handed over to U.S.-approved intermediaries. An American advisory committee would oversee all new mining contracts and revenue distribution. And in exchange, promises of military security, cooperation, technology partnerships, and protection from regime change. Yes, you read that right. Protection from regime change, a veiled threat buried beneath polite wording. The message: obey us or fall. And at the top of the document, in thick red ink, one handwritten note: Traore has 48 hours. This wasn't just economic colonialism. It was imperialism, 2.0 bold, naked, and direct. Back in Washington, the political elite tried to play it cool. They claimed Trump was going rogue, acting on his own, not as part of official US policy. But behind closed doors, no one was stopping him. Because deep down, Trump was just saying out loud what they'd all been thinking for years. We don't care who runs Africa, as long as we control what's under the ground. But Captain Ibrahim Traore got the message loud and clear, and he had already made up his mind. No foreign power will dictate the future of our land. If this was going to be a power play, Traore was ready, but not as a pawn. He was stepping in as a leader, a sovereign man, representing a sovereign nation. And Trump? He just threatened the wrong soldier. When that demand landed in Burkina Faso's war room, Traore didn't flinch. He read the letter calmly twice. Then he set it aside, stood up, and said flatly, "So that's their price for peace? Slavery in a suit and tie." He didn't wait. He didn't hesitate. He lit a fire. They want 60% of our future, then they'll get 100% of our resistance. He didn't call Paris. He didn't call DC. He called the commander of the Special Sovereignty Force, a shadow military unit created for exactly this kind of moment. Orders were issued fast. Lock down every oil field. Double security on gold convoys. Cut off all data flows to foreign contractors. Prep national television. A statement was coming. By noon, the entire country was watching. The screen faded to black. Then came the flicker of a live feed. No fancy studio, no slick production. Just Traore in uniform. One hand on the Burkina flag, the other on a folder marked "Confidential US Threat." His voice was calm. His stare was razor-sharp. To the people of Burkina Faso and to our African brothers and sisters, an offer has been made to sell our oil, to sell our gold, to sell our honor in exchange for fear. He paused. The room held its breath. To those behind this insult, to Mr. Trump and his backers, you have misjudged us. We are not Libya. We are not Iraq. We are not your playground. We will never trade our land for your luxury. We will never bow to your bullets or your banks. You gave us 48 hours. Here's our response. You now have 48 hours to take your greed, your threats, and your arrogance and leave African soil. He stood, saluted, and walked off screen. No questions, no deals, no backing down. But while Traore's speech lit up Africa, sparking cheers from Dar to Dar es Salaam, another storm was quietly forming behind the scenes. In oil boardrooms and intel agencies, panic hit at ExxonMobil. Urgent calls went out to DC. At Halliburton, strategy teams scrambled to assess the damage. And at CIA headquarters in Langley, alarms started going off. Traore didn't fold. He went public. That was the problem. If Burkina Faso could say no and win, what was to stop Mali, Niger, Chad, or Congo from doing the same? So the pressure kicked up fast. CIA operatives started popping up more frequently in West Africa. Surveillance drones ran tighter flight paths over Burkina Faso's oil fields and gold routes. Social media lit up with sudden smear campaigns, calling Traore unstable, erratic, even mentally unfit. And near the Ghana border, private contractors tied to a notorious intel firm were reportedly spotted moving in. The message from Washington was clear: this ends now. But Traore's answer had already echoed across the continent. Africa is not yours to buy. Their mission? Destabilization from within. Meanwhile, major Western media networks suddenly aligned in message. They began a new narrative. Burkina Faso's economic isolation could trigger a humanitarian crisis. Experts warn, they said, Traore is leading his country into ruin. But inside Burkina Faso, the opposite was happening. More people lined up to volunteer for oil field security units. Across Burkina Faso, the resistance wasn't just military. It was cultural, grassroots, and growing by the hour. University students held teach-ins on sovereignty and resource justice. Women's groups delivered food and supplies to soldiers guarding the gold mines. And every time CNN or the BBC ran another hit piece, young people didn't get angry. They laughed. Then they reposted it with the caption, "If they hate him this much, he must be doing something right." Captain Ibrahim Traore understood something critical. The real enemy wasn't just Trump. It was the whole system, the global machine of banks, oil giants, spy agencies, and media empires that had stripped Africa for generations.